Hi, I'm Shonda Ramsey, your host and fellow indie author. Are you overwhelmed at the thought of publishing your book by yourself? Has fear kept you frozen in place, unable to write even the first word of your book? Not knowing the steps you need to take shouldn't stop you from writing. That's why I've asked for help from some amazing industry professionals, published authors, and others who are in the same situation as you to share their knowledge on the self-publishing process. Welcome to Dear Indie Author, where we inspire creative independence in every writer. Hey friends, I am here with my friend Pearl. Pearl, I would like to start off with some rapid fire icebreaker questions. Are you ready for those?
I'm ready. Bring them on.
All right. How do you start your day?
Oh, I start my day with a tiny habit of I get up and after I take my dogs for a walk, I have two little dogs. And when I come back in, I typically get them fed. And I have this really cool front porch swing on my porch. It's a twin size bed. So I'll grab a
Mm,
book or something I'm reading or in my journal, and I'll either do one of those three things. I'll either read, journaling, or just sit and do some meditation.
that is amazing. That sounds so lovely. What is the best advice you've received?
The best advice I received came from my pastor. I was, in my mid-40s, and my parents were divorcing after 43 years of marriage, and I felt like I was being pulled all different ways, and he said, "Pearl, this is your game of life. You love football, so if your parents can't play by the rules you have set, it's okay to put them on the bench. We don't pick our parents, we love them, but we have to set our boundaries. And so when they want to play by our rules, you can let them back in if you want, but if not, just like in a game of football, if you can't play right, you can't play on the field."
That's great. Do you prefer cooking or baking?
I'm a baker. I don't like to cook.
Mm. What is your favorite holiday?
My favorite holiday is Christmas.
Hmm. Do you like cheesecake or brownies?
Ooh, I think I'm more of a brownie girl.
Hmm. I like brownies too. What is one talent you wish you had?
Singing.
Mm, that's a good talent. What is your favorite color?
Blue.
Mm. What's your favorite vacation spot?
Ooh, Italy.
Italy. Oh, that is on my bucket list.
It's beautiful. You have to go.
Yeah, that is one place I would love to see. Do you prefer coffee or tea?
Tea.
Tea. Do you like to eat in or eat out?
I do a combination since COVID. I eat
Yeah.
in, but I order out.
I think that's pretty much what we do too. What is your favorite book?
Oh, my favorite book. I think it's How to Win Friends and Influence People
Mm, I've not
by
read
Dale
that one.
Carnegie.
Yeah, I'll have to read that one. What is your favorite self-care method?
I do what's called staycation. So once I found out and figured out that I had to come first by saying no to others and yes to me, I create at least once a quarter a staycation. So I'll go somewhere. I live in Florida, so I'm near the beach. So I'll pick a beach locally and I'll just go stay, show up on a Friday and check out on a Sunday.
Mm, I love that. That sounds like fun too. Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. So, my name is Pearl Knapp-Chiarenza, and I'm a mental fitness life coach, author, and speaker. And I love to help women 35 plus to step in the power of the word no is a complete sentence. You can say it as happy as you say yes, so that you show up for yourself first. Because once you get to know me, my story, we're not promised tomorrow. And so if you are not here tomorrow and all your friends and family could say what they saw you do for yourself, what would they say? And if you don't know, you need to talk to me.
That's amazing. You have contributed to multiple publications like Behind Her Brand and Beyond Skin Deep. What inspired you to write for these specific projects?
Yeah, so behind your brand came early on for me. I was starting my business, and like I was with a great person, Kimberly, and she was doing this project, and I was like, I thought the things I didn't know, if I can pay it forward and teach somebody, like when you're starting out your business, these are the things that I learned. I wanted to be part of that. And then that led to other opportunities as well, and I did one with her behind the weight loss. I lost over 60 pounds. So how I did that in the journey to like maintaining that weight loss, I did that as well.
Awesome. That's awesome. In your writing, you often address overcoming people pleasing. How has this theme evolved in your work over time?
Oh wow. I was 2015. I took a 6-week identity and destiny course,
Mm,
and we had to give our I am statement at the end of 6 weeks. My oldest was senior in high school, and my youngest was freshman in high school. And I realized at the end of the 6 weeks when I had to give my I am statement, I was still saying I was all my titles: mom, wife, volunteer,
mm,
all these things. And a friend I met in the class, she's like, "Where have you been for 6 weeks? Like, who the heck are you? Like, who is Pearl?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're right. Like, what have I done for 6 weeks here?" And
mhm,
I started realizing as I was doing the homework afterwards, I would say yes to anybody and everything. And so I had to make a change. So I decided to was walking outside one day and I saw this rock on the ground, and I picked up the rock, didn't know why I had the rock, just kind of put it in my pocket, and somebody asked me to do something, and I kind happened to rub my hand on that pocket, and I was like, "Oh, I can't do this. I have to say no." And I just said no. And as I was working on really that power of the word no and understanding, because all those thoughts come in our head. They're going to think I
mhm.
don't like them. I'm selfish. All those things that we allow the saboteur to tell us.
Yeah.
I had to step in and be like, "No, if I want to be here and be present." I was getting frustrated over my kids asking me to do simple things like make a grilled cheese sandwich. So
Mm,
I decided I had to make a change. And in doing so, I didn't realize how far back as a kid people pleasing was for me and how far I hadn't let that go. And so I realized I wasn't alone. And so I started saying no. I started like practicing no, saying no. Made a commitment that at the end of the day, if I had not said no 3 times in a day, I had to email or text or call somebody to tell them no. And it was great because I was starting to show up for me. I was less stressed. I was
mhm.
starting to show up for my kids, more present with my husband. And then the aha for a people pleaser was if maybe I didn't want to, couldn't do this with you, Shonda, right? But I knew
Yeah.
somebody that could be on here with you, I would be like, "Hey, I know so and so. I think she'd be a great fit." I realize as a people pleaser, I could connect people together, and therefore, if you asked me to do something, if I knew somebody, I would refer you. And
Yeah.
so it really made a life changing in my life. It helped me set boundaries around difficult family situations, around even my kids as they made some choices in their lives, and
Mhm.
even friends that were longtime friends in my life that I had to release because of the boundaries.
Yeah, that's really hard to do, but it is so freeing when you do that. That power
Yes.
of no is incredible. Can you share a bit about the process of writing for diverse topics such as weight loss and intercultural adoptions? How do you shift gears between such different subjects?
Yeah. So it's sort of like what's on my heart. Like if somebody approaches me, it's got to be like, is it really on my heart? How can I pay it forward? Like, I don't want to write just to be like, oh, this is who I am, but how can my story and how will it change or empower somebody else that might be the reader reading it? And then when I write, I just write from the heart. So, I have to create that space in my office. Sometimes it's my staycations. I'll go and write a way to create that environment. I'll meditate on it, and then it's gotta be like, where am I at in my life today, and will it make a difference for somebody? And that's how I choose those topics. The Beyond Skin Deep is a project that we're launching. We have, it's my first anthology that I'm doing. So we have 8 authors right now. We're looking for about another 15 authors to come join us, and we're looking for authors that are either adoptees or have adopted a child of a different culture. It's a project my oldest son, Matthew, we lost 2 years ago this month, and he saw me write and speak, and he's like, "Mom, I think we should do a book on this," because he was, biracial in our family, and so in his and also in his biological family, he was the only child of color. So
Mhm.
he wanted to write stories and write a book to pay it forward. He learned from me about How can we pay it forward and share our stories? And so that's a project we're just starting. And that's different because it's my first one I'm in charge of. I'm
Yeah.
doing everything, communication, picking the right people for the book, having editors that know where to place everybody in the book. Cause it's like, well, I got the first one, but maybe their story doesn't belong after the next story, right? So how do we flow it through the book, and how do we guide authors or people that are sharing the story they've never written before, right? So we also talk about like you're doing with me, like asking questions.
Yeah.
Here's some questions to fill out. Here's some thoughts. We have one author, they're like, can I just write my top 25 ideas? I'm like, that would be perfect. Top
Mhm.
25 thoughts. I'm like, yeah, write whatever makes it flow. And the number 25 is because my son was 25 when he passed, and he passed on the 25th of the month. So and Matthew is all about numbers. So we're
Yeah.
trying to make those numbers.
That's beautiful. That is such a beautiful way to honor him too.
Thank you.
And as you're telling me this, two names popped into my mind, so I'll definitely pass those people along to you.
Awesome.
I myself was a foster parent for a while, so I totally understand that, and it's such a beautiful thing to write about, and even more beautiful that you're honoring him in that way.
Thank
It's
you.
gonna be
Thank
neat.
you.
You also offer coaching in addition to writing. Can you share a little bit more about what it is that you offer in that capacity?
Yeah. So again, going back to, I was a coach who just worked on weight loss. And I had many of my clients be like, but I basically learned what not to do from the person that trained me, right? So if you came in, it was a specific program. So if you came in and you ate something that wasn't on the program, it was like, why'd you do that? Like you felt like you're gonna go
Yeah.
get in trouble with mom and dad, right? They would come in my office and be like, okay, let's talk about the emotion. What was happening when you ate? Why did you know? So I was all about that emotion. So I started having my clients say, hey, my friend, she doesn't need to lose weight, but you're such a great listener and you give such great advice and guidance. Would you go talk with her? So after probably about 10 free tea dates, because I don't do coffee, I
Mhm.
was like, okay, God, what am I doing? And I decided to become a life coach. And then mental fitness came in a lot through COVID because I saw the challenges that women especially were having at home where they've got to become a teacher and they didn't want to teach. That's why their kids go to school. They're having their spouse home all day and their kids are home or partner. So I saw that mental fitness. So I got trained in the positive intelligence program. And so I I work with my clients to set boundaries, to learn, where do you fall? Are you a people pleaser? Are you a risk taker? Like
Mhm.
are you that person that says, we call it the squirrel, right? Go after the next thing, right?
Mhm.
So we work on that and we have like I call it our SHERO method. So we have a GPS roadmap that helps you identify, where those saboteurs are. How do we start addressing them? Let's find your joy. Like what are your 10 things that really bring you joy? And then how do you start doing those things that are on that joy list? But then because, you either have a partner, your job, whatever that situation is, you have to be able to communicate those needs you have. So then we work on communicating our realistic expectations not only to ourselves as we speak to ourselves, but also as we share and speak it to others. And so that way, as you go through the process, you can do things like I have a client, she wanted a new dining room table.
Mhm.
And she was okay with the chairs she had, but she just wanted a new table. And so her spouse was like, well, why do we need a new table? The table's fine. You know how
Yeah.
that could be, right? And so what it came down to was communicating to him in his language of finances, right? So she came up
Yeah.
with 3 options for her table, brand new everything, brand new table, but not the chairs. Keep the chairs, or brand new table, reupholster the chairs. So
Mm.
once she went through that, she showed him, she ended up getting the brand new table, everything. But
Yeah.
because she could communicate her expectations, it opened up dialogue for them to talk about that, which then also led to they were needing a new car and he wanted to get her the specific car. And she didn't feel safe in it because she's like me, short, so she felt like it's too big for her.
Mhm.
And the love of, he wants to take care of her and give this car is amazing. So she went and communicated with him. I think it's great. I would like something the same brand, but this is more what I'm looking for, and here's why. And once she explained, I feel short, I'm worried about accidents, then the dollar signs going, as she gets in an accident, it's another car, right? So she
Yeah.
got the car she wanted in the same brand he wanted her to have. So those are things that I do when we're coaching together is really let's hone in on what your saboteurs are. Let's hone on what your joy is and then communicate with others and yourself. How do you start accomplishing those things?
Mm.
So that if you're not here tomorrow, people can say, I saw Pearl sit in her front porch swing. I saw my client, get the table she wanted. I saw, doing things with others but not feeling stressed out.
That's amazing. That is so needed also for sure. How do your coaching programs help women to establish effective self-care practices and boundaries in their personal and professional lives together?
Right. So, I came from professional world. I worked in, in corporates, and I remember, when our kids came along, especially, it's like balance, finding that harmony. Because I don't believe, and if you listen to me, you can quote me, I do not believe there's balance. You have harmony, because there's always going to be something or someone you're not getting to as much as you want to, right? But
Mhm.
if you can find harmony to know, okay, it's pretty close, then you're accomplishing something good. And really, again, it goes back to communicating, like, what is it that you want to do? Because you have to do something for yourself, because if you're not showing up for yourself, if you're not stepping into what I call that SHERO lifestyle,
Mhm.
then people are going to take advantage of you. You're never going to,
Yeah.
that saboteurs and judge. So how do you communicate to work? Like setting up boundaries, learning to delegate. Sometimes we think we have to do it all. Who around you can you empower and teach and pay forward to delegate something to? Communicating with that boss, because I get it, there's deadlines and they want their deadlines, right? But
Mhm.
how do you
Yeah.
communicate with them your needs? Like we talk about that. And then at home life, I remember when I finally in 2015 said, I got to do something for me, or I'm going to be stressed out. I remember talking with my husband and my kids. I had two boys, and I was like, okay, here's the deal. I have to start doing something for myself. So when I get home, I'm going to go in my room. I'm going to maybe read a book, take a bath. I'm going to do something. It might even be a nap, but I'm going to do something for me. So, unless the house is burning down, I don't want to hear from anybody, because you get sick or something, have to go to the hospital, your dad can take you to the hospital and call me on the way. So,
Yeah.
so you have to take that first step. It takes a good 40 days, I believe, to really step into that habit, communicate with others. But once you start like really understanding the need and communicating, you become stronger in what you want. You become stronger in communicating what you want, right? And then as you become stronger, I'll lead you down to what Shiro means. As you become stronger, you become happier. Like you're not stressed out because your kid actually make a grilled cheese sandwich. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
And then what happens is as those things start happening, you start becoming empowered to do things like write a book, write a chapter, do an anthology, or start a business, whatever that is. It's kind of been sitting on a shelf. You become empowered. And then what happens is people notice. People are going to be like, wow, Shonda, like, what's going on with you? Like, did you cut your hair? Did you
Yeah.
like, are you losing weight? Like, there's something different about you. Like, cause you got this radiant, like, glow up about you.
Mhm.
Then the beautiful thing is you start walking in that original authentic self of who you're supposed to be. You just kind of put her on a shelf for a little bit, because we think society tells us, especially women, you have to be the nurturer. You have to take care of
Yeah.
everybody else. No, my kids will tell you they know how to clean showers. They know how to clean toilets. They know how to do everything laundry, because
Yeah.
I taught them it's not my responsibility to do everything. We are a
Yeah.
team here.
Yeah. We work together. I like that. So going back to Shiro, you mentioned putting on a Shiro cape. How do you achieve this in your daily life and writing practice?
Yeah, I think I learned this from my business coach. I'm going to give shout out to my business coach, Julie DeLuca Collins. I learned this from her especially, and that's like creating the time on your calendar. Like you have to book yourself an appointment and making time. So every Monday is my focus day. Like that's my day to do writing, do emails, whatever I need to get done, and that to start my week off good. Those are my days. I usually don't take any phone calls on a Monday. And then Wednesday is all about those calls, follow-ups. I have a podcast, record my podcast, those kind of things. So
Mhm.
I think for me, it's really about how am I working my schedule and not letting my schedule, control me. So having that time and setting that time. And it doesn't mean I do it perfect every day. So give yourself grace if you don't,
Mm.
but just go right back to it, right? And during that day, like Monday's a long day. I usually start around 10 and I go to about 5 or 6. So I'll take breaks here or there. Like I'll take a breathing break, of course, take lunch or maybe a cup of tea. So I do take some
Yeah.
breaks in there too.
That's good. Breaks are always good. What does your typical writing routine look like when you sit down to write?
Oh, so my kids are out of the house now, but when I first started, it was hard because there was so much noise going around. So I would go to like a co-work space or some place that was quiet. Our other house, we didn't have the porch swing. We moved here 4 years ago, so that first thing
Mhm.
I wanted was my porch swing. but I would find a quiet space that I could have that time just to myself. Candle, meditation, create that space, and then just take notes of what are I learned this from Dale Carnegie when it came to speaking, and I apply it to my writing. What are the top 3 things I wanted to make sure I get across? And
Mm,
then what are my fillers in there? What are the points I want to make in between there? And then how vulnerable do I want to be? I'm
mhm.
I'm almost an open book. I mean, if
Yeah.
you can go find me anywhere and you'll find stories about my divorcing my parents, stories about my son, but I write like that in my book. I want to make sure I'm as authentic I am in person as I am in my writing. And so I make sure that I've got an environment where it's quiet, I won't have any interruptions. And I actually give myself a timer, like to stop and take a break and walk away. Because sometimes you come back and you're like, oh, I wrote that down, but really I want to do more about this. So that's what I do.
That's beautiful. I love that. As someone who has struggled with people pleasing, how do you create the boundaries in your writing career to ensure you have the time and space to actually be able to write?
I think again goes back to my schedule,
Yeah.
right? I
Scheduling.
have to be on that schedule. And here's the thing, if something comes up and somebody asks me to do something and I'm not where I want to be, then I say no. And I'll tell them,
Yeah.
I have a project I'm working on. If I come help you, I'm not going to be 100% because I'm going to be worrying about this project deadline. So
Yeah.
I answer it that way. If I feel like I'm good enough in my project and I want to say yes, then I will. But then I make sure that I move my calendar around to make sure I'm still accomplishing what I need to accomplish within my deadlines.
I think that's something that I myself need to learn sometimes because
It's
I
hard.
I am one who has always defaulted to the people pleasing side of things. And when it came to writing, when I sat down to write, a book, it was like constant texts and messages and notifications. And I'm just like, what is happening? Like,
Yeah.
so
And,
you
and
do have to say no and
You do,
get
yeah,
out.
for sure. And also too, if I can just build on that a second, I have a client that I'm coaching, and she's writing a book, a chapter in a book, and we've done so much work with her in her life coaching together that when we first started, she was writing the book from a very, and she won't mind if I share, from a very stance of like anger, like she was anger, and when she was writing the book, she wanted to get her point across. So we come fast forward almost a year later that now she's the chapter has to finalize. And she called me. She's like, I don't think I want to do it now. I don't think I want to do it.
Mm,
I'm not angry anymore. I'm like, no, 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 no. You still write it, but you
yeah.
write it from a point now of why were you angry? And what work did you do to get to where you are today? I go, that's a lesson. That's a
Yes.
huge lesson. So, so those that are listening, sometimes your writing could start out one way. And you're like going, well, that's not what I want to get across because that's not where I am anymore, right? And so
Hmm.
reevaluate and ask. And she's like, she thought I was going to give her the out. I'm like, I'm not giving you the out. You're still writing the
Yeah.
book. And she just turned in her chapter.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's where editing comes into play too. You can edit that
Yes,
out and redo it a little bit, which is
exactly.
nice. Yeah. That's great. What are some self-care strategies you use to maintain your productivity and creativity at the same time?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to what I do in the morning. That's huge.
Yeah.
I think that sets up my day. I also think looking at my calendar to make sure, again, going back, I don't have too much on my calendar, and so I am staying true to that part of my
Mhm.
calendar that allows me to keep my creativity. And then in my office here, I have a setup for meditation. So sometimes when I come in here and I'm wanting to do my writing, if I feel like I get in a block or something, or I don't feel like I'm like getting my point across, I just feel like I'm lost in what I'm writing, I'll stop and I'll just sit in a corner over here and meditate. I learned from a great person. She taught me how to meditate with no
Mhm.
music, just the quiet of my head. And
Yeah.
it's so amazing when I do that because I'm like, oh, things start coming after like 20 minutes, and I'll kind of make that mental note and come back. And the first thing I'll do is I'll write down those things that popped in my head. And
Mhm.
that's another thing I do too is I'll keep a notebook, like different places of my house or in my purse. I'll keep a notebook so if I get an idea or on my phone, I'll write the idea down so I don't forget.
Yeah, that's always great too. You have a retreat coming up in September, is that correct?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you share with us more about the retreat and what the participants can expect from it?
Yes, so we have 8 spots left. It is our 8th annual pajamas. It's our soulful self-care PJ retreat. It's the easiest packing retreat you will ever do because you show up in what you wear, you can go home in what you wear, and all you need is PJs and yogas, pants or something like that. And so you come up on Thursday. This year it's Thursday, September 12th, and we leave on Monday morning, the 16th. But we're going to do yoga on the beach. We have everything's included, including the food, and you're heading to bed. It's just you got to get there. We'll do, like I said, yoga on the beach. We have a photographer that you'll get a picture taken with. You can buy a massage. We have a massage therapist on
Mhm.
hand. But we're going to do activation things around allowing yourself space to have time for self. Like, how do you go home and create self-care? There are some exercises that some of your family is going to be involved in as well, that they'll be part of giving you some tidbits when you're at the retreat without giving away
Mhm.
too much. And then you'll meet some amazing 23 other amazing women that are there because they want some time to learn how to say yes to themselves and no to others, and start accomplishing some of the things in that wheel of life that they maybe have kind of put aside. And we talk about the priority and how to do that as well.
Mm. That sounds like a
So
really great time.
it's a great time. So if you want information, can I share where to go get it?
You can.
Okay, so you go to wslivingretreats.com. So wslivingretreats.com. And if you go in there and you'll see everything you need to about the retreat. And it's a lot of fun. It's our 8th annual one. And if you come this year, 2 more years, we're going to Costa Rica, but we're going to have a really cool deal if you decide to come to Costa Rica with us.
That sounds amazing too.
Yes.
So fun. Awesome. I'm definitely gonna have to look more into that because it just sounds like a great way to disconnect too.
It's so much, and then, there's no makeup, like, it's
Mhm.
pajamas, no makeup, it's a requirement, no makeup, so we're like, "Don't even bring your makeup because you don't need it the whole weekend."
Yeah.
And you can up buy if you wanna buy what do you call it, photo shoot in the beach. Our photographer will do a photo shoot, but at a cost, but you get at least 1 headshot or 1 picture of you on the beach, so it's just great activation. And the thing is too, we're giving you things, you've gone to retreats and you come home and you forget what you've done.
Mhm.
We continue on with things. Like, we have a small community that we continue on to meet every week and get together and work on stuff together.
That's amazing. That's even better. That's a good way to take it beyond, that's
Right.
awesome. All right. The next question I have for you is for authors struggling with people pleasing, what advice would you give them to help them prioritize their creative needs?
Hmm. I would ask first, like, why are you writing? Like, what's empowering you to do that? So what's your why? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if your why is as important as you think it has to be because you're doing the writing, right? You have to make that time. You have to practice saying no. And if you don't know how to do it, it's really, really, I have this course that I teach. It's positive intelligence. We talk about the saboteurs and judge, but find something. Like, for me, it was a rock. I still have a rock. I have rocks all around that remind me that saying no means I'm doing something for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And, you have to go. I think it still goes back to your why and making that time and space, and just be like, if you are committed to this, you have to be all in. Can't be a toe in. You've got to be all in. So that if somebody comes to ask you to do something, it's, I'm doing this amazing book project right now. And so I'm really focused on that. And so how about I get back to you? And maybe you give them a day to get back to you. I mean, sometimes people come to me and ask me to come speak at something, right? And it's like, I would really love to go do that, but it doesn't fit my schedule. And I'll say that, Shonda, this is a great idea. I would love to do that. My schedule just can't get me there. But if you do it again next year, can you and I talk, and you give a date that's good for you to talk about revisiting that, right?
Yeah.
But you have to make the time in your calendar too. And if home is like, if wherever you're writing, whether it's home, wherever you're writing at, if it's a busy place, like there's always commotion and distractions, then find a spot. I'm not saying you have to go book a hotel, but
Yeah.
maybe you go to a park, or maybe you go, for me, I love the beach. Maybe you go to the beach or a library. You go somewhere where it's quiet and no interruptions. That's going
Mhm.
to allow you as well.
Yeah. That's great advice. How can authors learn to say no to opportunities that don't align with their goals or values, especially if they struggle with saying no?
Yeah. So once I started stepping into understanding that saying yes to something I want to do was no fun and the energy was draining to me,
Hmm.
that's what I went back on. Like, how is this going to affect my energy? How am I going to show up? Because you're showing up and you're putting yourself there. And if you're not giving all the energy, it's going to come across, and people are going to see you're not completely sincere about what you are doing there.
Mm.
So I think you have to ask yourself, how important is my writing versus what I'm being asked to do? And if the writing is more important than what you're being asked to do, that's your out. And it's just, again, goes back to what I said. I've got this project I'm working on. It's like, you have to repeat it yourself. Get up every morning, stand in front of the mirror, like,
Yeah.
I'm working on a project today, and
Practice.
I'm going to do everything I can to not let anything get interfere, and I'll have the confidence to say no.
Mm.
Right. So then you're telling your brain already, you're teaching your brain to learn to say no.
Yeah, I like that. That's really good advice because I know, like I said, I definitely struggle with that sometimes, and then the guilt comes, right? Because you said yes when really you should have said no, and so then when you come back, you still got to pick up what needed to be done,
Right.
and so the
And the
guilt
thing,
kind of gets
and the
you.
other part of that too, Sean, is that if you know somebody that would be a good person to do that, then then refer that person. That
Hmm.
it's gonna come back to you tenfold.
Yeah,
Anytime I refer somebody out, it comes back tenfold.
yeah, that's awesome. What are some effective self communication strategies you recommend for maintaining focus and motivation?
Oh, okay. So definitely for me, it's how I talk to myself in the morning. We talk about affirmations, whatever what you want to call them, right?
Hmm.
If I'm and just and I do this with my clients. So I had a client one time, they're like, I don't have any money in the bank, and I've got keep getting told, tell myself in the morning I have all the money I want in the bank, but I don't believe it. I'm like, okay, so what if you switch it up? What if you say, kind of like what I did just a second ago, I'm going to do activities today. They're going to help me bring abundance to my bank account.
Mm.
Because then you're telling your brain to look for those activities and options, right?
Yeah.
So it's that self-talk goes to as well. Um, and you just have to practice. You just have to keep telling yourself, I'm doing this book. It's, whatever the name of your chapter is. If it's a chapter on, I'm doing this, like for me, I'm doing this amazing book on intercultural adoptions. That's my priority. I'm going to do things that we're going to open up doors to bring me to families that are, whatever that has to be for you, you tell yourself, but you have to believe it and keep telling yourself again and over again.
I love that. How important do you think establishing boundaries is for an author's success? And what are some practical steps to start doing that?
I think boundaries overall, no matter what you're doing in your life, is 100% necessary.
Yeah.
Because when you don't have boundaries, again, that's where people pleasing shows up, right? That's
Yeah.
you don't accomplish the chapter. You missed your deadlines, right? So you have to create those boundaries. I think it has to start with what you're saying in your mind. Create a boundary that you're going to tell yourself that what you're doing is empowering and it's going to change somebody's life. Create schedules like we talked about, like create a schedule and stick to that schedule.
Mhm.
Don't let anything, even if it means you got to turn your phone off and put it somewhere outside the room, don't let anything distract you. Because when you do, then you're going to break those boundaries. Don't let anybody tell you you shouldn't do the book either. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's on your mind, you want to do it, do it. Why 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 let somebody distract you, right? Because a lot of times it's their stuff and not your stuff, and
Mhm.
they may need your book, right? So
Right.
don't let anybody tell you it's not worthy of doing it, and don't let yourself tell you you're not worthy of doing it, because boundaries overall in life, that will affect whether you are a people pleaser, whether you're a risk taker. It will affect all those saboteurs and those things in your head telling you all the reasons why they don't think you should do the book. But when you do boundaries in life, you have less stress. You're not going to wake up going, I'm not making my deadline. Oh my gosh, I got to get up and do that chapter. You're not writing from a place of I'm behind. You're writing from a place of the reason why you started to do the chapter or the book in the first place.
Right. Yeah. I like that too. Are there any upcoming projects or initiatives you're excited about sharing?
So definitely the book that we're doing, like I said, it'll be 2 years this month that we've lost our son Matthew in a tragic car accident. And he was adopted. My husband and I tried for 10 years to have a family, and we got this call for this beautiful baby. And so we were able to adopt Matthew at like a month or two old. And then we saw the struggles he had growing up with being, this child of a different culture. There's things we learned. There's things that we wish, you couldn't go back and rewind the clock, but there's things that
Mhm.
we want to pay it forward and share. He has a younger brother who looked up to Matthew and they loved each other a lot. So he's actually getting married in October. We're really excited. But we are looking for families that have adopted or adoptees that have adopted a child of a different culture. We are in talks of it possibly becoming a documentary. So we're really
Mhm.
excited about that. So if you're somebody that's listening and you know somebody or you are that person that wants to share the story, there is an investment, but our hope is that we are also working on some grants and some possible sponsors. And so if those come to fruition, our goal is to give back some of the money to be part of the book, and the rest of it will go into a nonprofit for scholarships for young athletes that are adopted.
Wonderful. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah. So I have many people get lost, like we're talking about these people pleasers and things like that, right? So you can go, and if you want to see where you show up, you can go get my free test. It's called pearlsurvey.com/PQ quiz. And I know we'll put in the notes, but pearlsurvey.com/PQ quiz. And you can see what your score is and who your saboteurs are, whether you're a risk taker, people pleaser, all those things, some of the saboteurs we've been talking about today, high achiever. So check out your score and see where you're at, because it will give you some information too on that.
That's really neat. I like quizzes. That's a lot of fun. Is there anywhere else that the audience can find you, like your social media or any other websites they need to go to?
Yeah, so you can go to wsliving.com and find pretty much everything there. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I don't do the thing called X or whatever. I just don't do that one, but I don't find myself time. And LinkedIn, underneath my name, Pearl Knapp-Chiarenza with a C. So you can find me there and connect with me there. I'd love to talk with you, chat with you, and see how we can help each other grow.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. I would love for you to share the letter you wrote to our audience as we close up today's interview.
All right. So, my dear indie author, I want you to know that you come into this world. There's a lot of we've talked about today that we have to struggle with, our blocks, our boundaries, and all of those on this shell that we have at this oyster is really starts piling on and gets a little rough on the outside. But if I can encourage you to keep doing what you're doing and crack open that oyster shell, I'm going to promise you that inside you're going to find your inner pearl of greatness, and everybody is going to be wanting and needing your story.
Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Shonda Ramsey. For the show notes and links, head over to shondaramsey.com and don't forget to join in on the conversations on Facebook. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a show and write a review where you listen to podcasts. Until next time, always remember, every writer deserves to see their words in print.